Before we get started on the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Good afternoon, Venerable Teacher, dear Sangha. We are finally back on the topic of the Dhammapada. So we have gone through chapters 1 and 2. Chapters 2 is what led us to the 10 fetters that we spent several months on. So now we are on chapter 3, Chitta Vaga. Mind. It's translation of Chitta Vaga. So if you are newish or new to my Dhammapada talks, the Dhammapada is one of the oldest and most important Buddhist texts there is. It's not really considered a sutra, a discourse, because it's a combination of several verses of hundreds of discourses. And so it's separated by chapters and verses. So today we will go over verses 33 and 34, which goes, "The trembling and unsteady mind, difficult to guard, difficult to control, the wise person straightens it as a fletcher straightens an arrow. As a fish taken from his watery home and thrown on dry ground, our mind trembles all over in order to escape the dominion of Mara, the tempter." These 2 verses were given to, so all these verses, most of the verses have stories associated with them. They are the verses are the causes of things or situations happening during the Buddha's time. So these 2 verses were given to one of the Buddha's first attendants, Meghiya, during his early tenure of teaching. And so Meghiya was one of the Buddha's first attendants. And the verses were given to him because on one day when they were going on for an alms round and they were finishing up and going back to the monastery, one of the jobs of the attendant is to carry the Buddha's alms bowl and anything else he has, right? He's the attendant. But on this day, Meghiya passed by a mango grove and was enchanted by it. He was like, "Oh, this mango grove is so pretty. It's beautiful. It's serene and calm and peaceful. I want to spend my day here. I want to meditate here." And so he asked the Buddha for permission to go and meditate. And generally, the Buddha's like, "Yeah, of course, go for it. Go meditate. That's your job." But during this time, Meghiya was acting as attendant. And so as an attendant, you need to attend your teacher, right? And so since he was still doing the job of attendant and asking the Buddha to give him permission to leave, the Buddha was like, "No, not yet. You still have duties to do," right? And so he asked several more times until the Buddha was like, "You know what? Go for it. Go indulge your desire to sit in this mango grove. See what happens." And so he went to the mango grove. He sat in meditation. But during sitting, and even though he's in this very peaceful, calm, quiet grove, his mind was not so. His mind was it was trembling. He could not stop distractions from arising. He could not stop the mind from wandering. So the entirety of him sitting in this peaceful, quiet, beautiful grove, he himself, his mind was not that, as he hoped it would be. And so he went back to the Buddha, and the Buddha admonished him for thinking that such mental desire would bring him happiness. And so he gave these 2 verses. And I'll repeat them again. The trembling and unsteady mind, difficult to guard, difficult to control, the wise person straightens it as a fletcher straightens an arrow. As a fish taken from his watery home and thrown on dry ground, our mind trembles all over in order to escape the dominion of Mara, the tempter. And so the first verse here is essentially describing our habitual mental state. Our habitual mental state is not calm. It is unsteady. It is difficult to control, and it trembles, right? So even in meditation, we, just like Megaya, who assumed by going into this grove, this quiet, beautiful, serene paradise of a grove, would bring him such calm and serenity in his meditation, he mistaked that something outside of him, outside of his mind, would bring him those characteristics of peace and calm. So the Buddha admonished him and said, just because you're in a beautiful, quiet place does not mean your mind is beautiful and quiet either. And so he reminds us that our mind is difficult to control. And I've said this many times, that we believe we're the masters of our mind, but you're a master of nothing. You can't even control yourself. You can't control your own mind. If you're able to control your mind, if you're able to be masters of your mind, you'd be able to at will stop all thinking. You'd be able at will to stop all negative thoughts, to stop all defilements, right? All unwholesome thoughts, speech, and actions. You'd be at will able to stop them. You cannot. Because you cannot, you're not the master of anything yet. And so in order to be the master of our mind, you have to learn to control the mind. And in order to control the mind in such a way that the Buddha teaches, is that we have to be aware of what is going on in the mind in order to control it. Just like with anything else in the world, we have to know how things work in order for them to be successful, right? In order to be a mechanic, you have to know the ins and outs of everything that a car or any vehicle has to do. In order to be a doctor, you have to know all the tools and resources of medicine, of health, right? So in order to do anything, you have to know how things work. So our mind is no exception. You think you know yourself, but you don't know anything. You have this false sense of self because you tell yourself, I like this, I like that, I don't like this, I don't like that. I'm this person, I am this successful, or I am this much of a failure, I'm above or below or equal to other people, right? Which is also a fetter. Conceitedness, one of the fetters, 10 fetters, conceit. Mana means to measure. So even when you're measuring, whether it's in an inferiority or a superiority complex, or even thinking that you're equal to others, is still a measure. It's still wrong. It's still a fetter. And it's an obstruction. So in order to control our minds, we have to be aware of how our thinking works, why our thinking happens and works in the way it does. Whenever we're out in the world and something happens and we automatically judge, right? Don't tell me you don't judge. I know you judge. You judge how people walk, how people talk, how people drive, how people speak, how people react or act. We judge all the time, right? It's a habitual human instinct to judge and to compare. I'm a better driver. They're a bad driver. They're a good cook. I'm a better cook. You know, we compare ourselves to our coworkers, to our friends, our family. Right? All these are judgments. All these are biases, comparisons, and defilements, essentially. Whether they are true or not, it doesn't matter. You have no right to make such accusations regardless. Because when you make such accusations, even if it's correct, there is still an influence of subjectiveness. There's still an influence of external perceptions molding that idea that you have of other people or things or places. And so to control our mind, we have to watch it, which is why we practice meditation. It's why we practice mindfulness, so that we can be aware of what arises when we meditate. Right? One of the main objectives of meditation, especially for semi-new or even slightly experienced, is we label, right? We label things because it helps us condense an entire story. Because if you do not label, if you're not mindful as you're meditating, if you're sitting in meditation, someone opens the door, right? Your habitual instinct may to make comments like, who is it? Why are they late? Why are they disturbing my meditation? Why can't they be on time? Yes? And so in order to, if we do that, then it allows our mind to sink into false storytelling. Because we don't know who, what, or why the door opened, right? It's the same thing when we see accidents on the road. We don't truly know what happened. But what we do typically do is make assumptions according to what we see and observe to say, oh, this person must have started it, or this must have happened, right? We're making excuses to justify your rationale to make your assumptions correct or true. And they're most likely not. And so instead of creating false stories and making these imaginary assumptions, we simply label things. So if the door opens, you simply label it door or sound, because that is truly what it is. That is the reality of what has occurred. Not that someone opened the door, not that someone's late, not that someone's disturbing your meditation, but simply a door was opened. A sound was made. That's all you need to make aware of. That's all you need to be aware of. But we do that all the time. Someone's late at work. Oh, they're lazy. Someone didn't do the job correctly. They weren't paying attention. Someone broke a promise or forgot about a promise or a deal or whatever it may be. Oh, they're untrustworthy. They're unreliable. We make excuses for things all the time to make ourselves, to justify the situation, to make ourselves feel better about it. And so in this particular instant for this verse, what has happened is Megea had this desire that instead of reflecting on why the desire arose or why he had the desire, he acted upon it without contemplation. Because if he recognized or came to the conclusion that his desire was simply that he wanted something observably beautiful, which is the mango grove that he saw on his way back to the monastery. He believed that this beautiful mango grove would bring him peaceful meditation. But alas, he went and sat and was completely disturbed. But if you were able to recognize that, yes, this mango grove is beautiful, and it's quiet, and it's serene, But that doesn't mean anything beyond that. That doesn't mean that just because you come to temple and you sit and you meditate or you chant, that you're all of a sudden a better person, or you're now a Buddhist, or you know what you're doing with your life. That's not the case. Many people come to temple once a week only, right? Maybe once every once in a while. Even those that come on a very regular basis, whether they come to the classes or the evening chanting, just because you come to the temple and you do temple stuff does not mean you're gaining anything. You're reading, but do you understand? And if you understand, are you contemplating? And if you're contemplating, are you creating, developing wisdom? Without wisdom, your practice is useless. If you just read and don't practice, it's useless. But if you also practice and don't read, that's also useless. But just because you know something doesn't mean you actually know it. You know it superficially. If I read you these two verses and ask you to describe it, you can give me a very superficial description that may make sense. But are you actually able to penetrate its true meaning? And that's essentially the entirety of Buddhist practice. Is you can read the chants, you can read the sutras, you can read and do this and do that and follow the rituals and follow the procedures. But do you know why? Do you know what the essence and the meaning of these are? The second verse, the Buddha describes a fish taken from its watery home, thrown on dry ground. Our mind trembles all over in order to escape the dominion of Mara, the tempter. So he's saying that our mind is unsteady. Our mind is like a fish out of water, flopping around chaotically, wondering why it's not swimming. Our natural mind is calm. Think of a child. When a child is young, they don't have these perceptions and ideas and discriminations. They don't discriminate between race and gender and sexuality and all those other things, right? They just live life. They love to have all these friends. They don't care who they are. They don't care where they grew up from, their economical status, rank. They don't care, right? They don't have the capacity to hold on to grudges and discriminations and biases, right? These are things that are developed as we age, as we become adults. So our natural mind is calm and pure, right? Like the calm sea. And so when we are out of that calm sea and into dry land, that's when our mind trembles. Because we are outside of our natural state. Even in the chants, we have a chant that's invoking the sea vast assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. What does sea vast assembly mean? If you look out into the vastness of the sea, what do we see? Actual question. If you're looking out into the ocean, what kind of water? Mostly calm water, yes? So water is naturally calm. Likewise, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas' mind are naturally calm. The only thing that moves the water is what? Wind, waves. These are the tremblings that happen in our life. But even those trembles in the water is impermanent, right? A storm doesn't last forever. Eventually, a storm will calm and you go back to your natural state. But if you take yourself out of the water, out of the ocean, and go into dry land like a fish that trembles, the fish will what? Eventually die. It's out of its state. It's out of its home. It's out of its resource to live. Trying to decide if I want to go further. This chapter, chapter 3, Dhammapada, mine is probably one of my favorite chapters. I probably say that a lot, but it really is a chapter, if it is contemplated on, can bring pretty significant realizations. Because the entirety of the chapter is describing how our mind should be, steady and practice with in order to attain that enlightenment, Because after the Buddha admonished Bhagya on this, he attained the first level of enlightenment. He attained Shrotapatthana, stream enterer. Because he realized he took himself out of the desire for sensual pleasures, which was the mango grove. He wanted somewhere beautiful, somewhere quiet, somewhere serene. And so when you get out of the habit of thinking that anything externally outside of yourself is going to bring you happiness, when you truly penetrate that concept, you've eliminated one of the fetters. Because we have a habit of thinking that things outside of ourselves bring us happiness. A good job brings us happiness. A big house brings us happiness. A fancy car brings us happiness. A crap load of friends brings us happiness. None of that brings you happiness. It may bring you happiness very temporarily, right? But eventually the house has to crumble. The car has to stop running. Your friends will grow up and get married and have kids and distance themselves, most likely. Your job will not always be there. So all these externalities are dependent on other things. And so when anything that you believe brings you happiness is has dependencies, it is not true happiness. It cannot bring you true happiness. True happiness does not need a source of anything. Right? Anything that is dependent on something else has a source. This bell is dependent on the bell makers. It's dependent on the resources, on the metals, on the tools, on the craftsmanship of people. Right? It didn't just come out of nowhere. Flowers dependent on the ground, on soil, on water, on sun, on people who planted it, people who take care of it. So anything that has a dependency on anything else is never going to bring happiness. It is impermanent. And impermanence is a beautiful thing. It's a necessary thing. But anything that is impermanent cannot bring happiness. So the Buddha is telling us to control our mind, to control our habits of the things we believe brings us happiness. If you're able to control yourself by that and learn that those things do not bring lasting happiness, then it's easier for you to understand the realities of life. And the reality of life is things won't always go your way. Because we have expectations. Expectations of the devil. Expectations is Mara. Mara here in Buddhism denotes a kind of evil or the devil of some sort. But Mara is a reference to the three poisons, ignorance, greed, and anger. Those are the causes of all our suffering. Ignorance, greed, and anger. Ignorance is the big one, because ignorance is what makes us believe those things brings us happiness. We are ignorant to the truth of reality. So when we're able to penetrate the three poisons, and penetrate this concept in Buddhism called shunyata, or emptiness, right? If we're able to truly penetrate that and see that things are empty, which is a huge topic, but emptiness is essentially the realization that things are dependent on other things. And because they're dependent on other things, they don't exist, right? Like I said, this bell is empty in essence because it depends on materials, raw materials, the resources, the metals, the workers, the location, right? If you take any of those pieces out, this bell will no longer exist. The flowers and plants and trees require soil, water, and sun. You take any of those elements out, the flowers and plants do not exist. It is empty. It is empty of true essence, true existence. And so if we take that concept into everything else that we do in life, our relationships, our friendships, our jobs, our hobbies, our likes and dislikes, and we're able to apply that concept of emptiness to everything else, then when something doesn't go our way, when something does not meet our expectations, we don't get angry, we don't get mad, we don't get disappointed, because we understand that this is how life is. It is what it is. I'm going to get that tattooed on my forehead one day. It's my motto in life. It is what it is. If you don't have expectations, then you can never get disappointed. You'll never get angry. You'll never get hurt. But unfortunately, we have expectations all the time, especially in relationships, especially in a job. You have a relationship. If you're in a relationship, you have an expectancy that your significant other is going to treat you well, that they're going to respect you, they're going to honor you, they're going to watch over you, take care of you. Because at the moment that they don't do one of those things, then you second guess your relationship. Do they really love me? Can I really trust them? Do they really care about me? Right? You second guess things. But if you have the tendency to let things be as they are, whatever happens, happens, right? And of course, not all things are easy to comprehend and to take in. But if you don't allow those expectations to truly harm you in a negative way, then you can just let things be. You can let things go and move on with your life. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. I can go on and on and on, but I shan't. Questions. What are your questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? The Buddha used the example of straightening the arrow because, again, our mind is bent. It's not straight. Our concentration, our focus is not straight. It's bent by defilements. It's bent by all the expectations that we have. And so when you're able to control your mind and control the habitual process that you've had the majority of your life and strengthen that concentration and focus, then you're more likely to get to the finish line quicker, attain enlightenment. Yes, sir.
I was thinking about, in general, say you were to just get rid of a bunch of stuff in your life, so you have nothing, I guess for lack of a better word, you have like nothing to tempt you in a way, so you have like no pain or anything, but then is that really worth it? Wouldn't it be better to live in the world and sort of deal with the stuff instead of like escaping from it all?
This isn't nihilism. You can have a bazillion things in your life. The Buddha's not telling you to not have anything. He's not telling you to get rid of all your stuff. The problem with all the stuff is you have the attachment to them. So if something were to happen to them, break or get lost, that's where the expectation of it arises and causes suffering. Have all the things you want. Have a junkyard of stuff. It doesn't matter. But if you get butthurt of something breaking or losing or something happened to it, what happiness has it brought you? But at the same time, if that thing were to not even exist in your life, then it doesn't matter anyway. Right? But trust me, a minimalistic life is much better than a chaotic one. Which is why monks and nuns have nothing. You leave your life behind. You leave all your possessions and you emancipate yourself from old life, including friends and family. Because even friends and family are a hindrance to our practice. And so it's not that you cancel them out of your life. It's just the relationship now is different. Right? And so when you ordain with your undergarments, and then you get 3 robes and an alms bowl and a sitting mat. That's all my possession. I have nothing else to worry about. If I had 5 cars to worry about, 500 properties to worry about, this and that to worry about, then your mind, where's your mind? Your mind's outside. Your mind's not with your practice. Same thing as when we shave our head. Even hair is an impediment. Then you're going to wonder, oh, does my hair look good today? Do I have to style my hair? Should I put gel in my hair? Should I cut my hair? No, just get rid of it. You don't have to worry about it. Get rid of all your possessions, and you don't have to worry about it. Yes, sir.
One way to hear what you're saying is that you might think, well, what he's saying is thinking is bad, but it's not, because our brain is just a tool, right? It's just an object or organ of our body or of ourselves. Mm-hmm. That we need to get through this world. Where we get in trouble is when we start taking that beyond where it's real. In other words, if I walk out and it's raining, and I say, oh, it's raining, I better get my umbrella. You know, that's all good thought, right? I mean, that's a normal thought. But if we walk out and it starts raining, we go, yeah, I don't want it to rain today, I want to go fishing. So then we're using our mind in a way that doesn't track what's real. The rain is real, the umbrella is real, and standing is real. But getting upset about it raining because I want to go fishing is not, right?
Exactly.
So you used the word control a lot when you were talking about what we do to get our mind in the right place. Maybe it's where we're working with things, because earlier you said we can't really control our mind, but we can work with situations or the way that we're thinking. I don't know what the word is, but we can. Yes, maybe not.
Right. We're not necessarily controlling our mind now. We are learning to control our reactions to things, right? So like you said in your example, if we go outside and it's raining and we react negatively, oh, it's raining, I don't want it to rain, I wish it wasn't raining. Who the F cares? It's raining, it's already happening. You can't stop the rain unless you have powers to stop the rain. So why complain about it? It's already happened, or it's already happening. So we're not, the way I say controlling the mind is that we are trying to control our reactions. Because when you can control your reactions to things, right? Reactions is the thought process first, right? So everything starts as a thought first. Then it goes into speech and goes into action. And so if something were to happen and you're thinking negatively, your next common thing to do is to then speak it. But if you're able to watch that reaction as the thinking process is happening, right, and this happens within fractions of seconds, but if you're mindful enough and aware enough of your reaction, you can stop the negativity, the unwholesomeness in the mind before it turns into unwholesome or negative speech. If it turns into unwholesome negative speech, then you have a tendency that it may become action. So you're in an argument, right? And you're thinking negative things, and you're saying negative things, harmful things. The next thing you know, you're physically fighting with this person. So you have all these checkpoints, right? These 3 checkpoints to control yourself, to control your mind. But it all starts at the reactionary process first. The mind state is the most important. It's the most difficult, right? Because it happens in fractions of seconds. It happens so quickly that sometimes we don't have time to watch our reaction. We just react habitually. If someone's yelling at us, we typically have a tendency to yell back. If someone's trying to hit us, we have a natural tendency to try to hit back. What does that what does that do? How is that helpful? You're just creating more fighting, more what's the word I'm looking for? Conflict. Versus if someone's yelling at you, sit back, relax, smile. Who cares? I recently gave a talk as a retreat recently. I gave a talk to a group of veterans, and when you're in a position that has some sort of authority, we tend to get kind of egotistical sometimes. Yes? You've been manager for so long, the principal for so long, you've been a commanding officer in the military here and there. You have this tendency of egoism. And so when someone insults you, or talks bad about you, or tries to manipulate you or whatever it may be, automatically there's a reaction to defend yourself. Even for us, right? If someone's talking or bashing us about our livelihood or what it may be or whatever, we tend to react by trying to persuade them otherwise. No, that's not me. I don't do that. Blah, 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 blah. So I gave them my superpower the same way I gave you my superpower. I told them, I was like, one of my superpowers is I am unoffendable. That's probably the biggest accomplishment of being a monk, is I am unoffendable. I have zero concern of what people say about me. I really don't care. But the superpower to attain that, the way to attain that superpower, is to ask yourself, is it true? If someone's offending you, and they're saying bad things about you, ask yourself, is it true? If what they're saying is true, it's true. They know it, you know it, who cares? Why are you upset? If it's not true, you know it, they know it, who cares? Why are you upset? So someone's coming at you about your livelihood, or whatever it may be, go for it. If that's what you want to believe, if that's what you want to say, good for you. Congratulations. You want an award? 2 awards? You want dinner with that? You got 2 minutes, Joseph.
So expectations are illusions, correct?
I'm sorry?
Expectations are illusions.
Mm-hmm.
The mind needs to be sharp, basically, so you need keen intellect, which often implies self-reflection, often implies thinking more, harder, not less. Because you have to do introspection, you have to constantly ask questions. Why? Say, always ask why. Part of being a fish is going with the flow and knowing how to go upstream when it's time to go upstream. A fish without water, of course, is not going to live. But a fish that doesn't know where to go isn't going to go anywhere.
moves through things. It molds around things. You know what I mean? It's part of our interconnectedness. It's part of our life. So is the air and everything else like that. So interconnected relationship between us and everything else is important. In society, there's expectations. Now, whether to what level of degree you want to live to those expectations is solely on you as an individual. If you're choosing to go through a monastic type of life, then you're choosing to not necessarily fully play within that matrix of expectations. You are basically choosing to not have these false, illusionary expectations, and you're choosing an aesthetic life, whereas if you're a lay person, correct me if I'm wrong, you're figuring a way to manage the societal expectations while being a lay practitioner in the same sense.
Is there a question there?
It was. So is there, as a lay person, how do you manage expectations of society? How would you go about doing that? Or do you just say, no, I'm going to skip just general lay life and go toward monastic life?
As a human being, whether you're lay or monastic, you can still have life, but not be part of the life. Versus you can be in society, but you don't have to be part of society. You're choosing to acknowledge the expectations of society. What does society have the expectations of? Right? There's beauty standards. There are monetary standards. There's status of this and that. Who made these up? The people who made them up are the people who only want to see that. So they're kind of Nazis, if you think about it. Right? If you go out in society and be like, oh, you have to look this way, you have to dress this way, you have to act this way, we're basically in a Nazi camp. Because not everybody's going to look the same, nor should you. Not everyone's going to act the same, nor should you. And so, society has expectations because we allow those expectations to exist. Because you take part of it, consciously or unconsciously. Just watch what you do. That's the only way to recognize expectations, is to be aware of what is happening. Just because there's expectations out there doesn't mean you have to involve yourself with them. There's expectations in this temple, but you don't have to involve yourself with it. Because we apparently have free will. Part of that free will is to involve or not involve yourself in things. They are correct. They are a false hope of. They are a false hope of how we want reality to be.
My grandmother was saying, she used to say, expectation is just a disappointment that's waiting to happen. Because if you expect something and it goes the way you want it to happen, it's just as likely as not. Probably isn't.
I was just telling Abel the other day, love is an illusion waiting to die. Think about it. I don't have time to explain it. That's going to be your homework for next time. Love is an illusion waiting to die. Contemplate on that. And not next week, the week after, I'll explain a little bit more because I'm already way over time. But that realization, if you have a realization from that quote, it is mind-altering. Okay. way over time, so we will share the merit and go to chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. For any positive karmic actions we've accumulated here today, we wish to transcend the merits of all sentient beings and wish them enlightenment. And before I forget, next Saturday, we will not have the meditation class. I'm going to have to move it to the following week. So it'll be the 3rd and 4th Saturday this month. I will be on retreat next weekend. So 3rd and 4th Saturday for meditation, 10 a.m. Chanting the 25th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, page 253.
Today we chant the chapter 25th of the Lotus Sutra because we have a lot of war going on in Ukraine. Now we have a new war between Israeli and the Palestinian, and we have the emergence of a new virus called COVID in China. It's very dangerous, more dangerous than COVID-19. So we just chant to pray for the peace of the world. The universal gateway of the Bodhisattva, receiver of the world sound, inviting the bell. Buddhist
Speech and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home.
Incense offering. In
gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting our wholehearted mindfulness and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awake from forgetfulness and realize our true home.
Opening verse. The
incense in the censer now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body, homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattvas.
This is for bowing. We bow together. Homage
to the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely Sangha, throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empties, and 3 periods of time.
Homage
to the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha Maitreya, honored future Manjushri, great wisdom Bodhisattva, universal great conduct Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattva, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
homage
to Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion Bodhisattva, great strength Bodhisattva, earth sword, great vow Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure sea-like Bodhisattvas.
Please sit down. Purification mantra. Om Suri
Suri Maha Suri So Suri Swaha. Om Suri Suri Maha Suri So Suri Swaha. Om Suri Suri Maha Suri So Suri Swaha.
The great compassion mantra.
Namo, great compassion in Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo, great compassion, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo, great compassion in Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
Namo
Ratnatrayaya. Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya Mahakarunikaya Om Sarvaravaye Sodhanada Tasya Namaskritva Himamarya Varokiteshvararam Dava Namo Narakande Hri Mahavaswami Sarvarhato Shubham Ajiyam Sarva Sattva Namo Vasava Namo Vak Mavitatu Tadyatha Om Avaloke Lokate Karate Hiri Mahabodhisattva Sarva Sarva Mala Mala Mahi Mahi Hridayam Koro Koro Karmam Doro Doro Vijate Mahavijate Dara Dara Dirinishvaraya Chala Chala Amabhimala Muktalahi Shina Shina Asham Prashari Visha Vishwamam Prashaya Olo Olo Mara Olo Olo He Sara Sara Siri Siri Soro Soro Bodhiya Bodhiya Bodhaya Bodhaya Maitreya Narakindi Dhyani Namayamana Swaha Siddhaya Swaha Mahasiddhaya Swaha Siddhayoge Shvaraya Swaha Narakindi Swaha Maranara Swaha Sirasamamokaya Swaha Sarva Mahasiddhaya Swaha Chakra Siddhaya Swaha Padmakasaya Swaha Narakindi Vagalaya Swaha Mavari Sankaraya Swaha Namo Ratnatrayaya Namo Arya Padokiteshvaraya Swaha Om Siddhyanto Mantra Padaya Swaha.
The Dhammapada
Body is bringing morning light and concentration. My heart is at peace. A half smile is born on my. This is a new day, and I vow to go through it in mindful. The sun of wisdom has risen, shining in every direction. Noble Sangha, diligently bring your mind into meditation. Namo Shakyamunaye Bodhaya. Namo Shakyamunaye Bodhaya. Namo Shakyamudaya.
This is opening a sutra. The unsure
As profound and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons, I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.
Namo
Lotus assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Lotus assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Lotus assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
Sutra after this wonderful law. At
that time the Bodhisattva, inexhaustible intent, immediately rose from his seat, bared his right shoulder, pressed his palms together, and facing the Buddha spoke these words: World-honored one, this Bodhisattva, perceiver of the worlds. Why is he called perceiver of the world sounds? The Buddha said to Bodhisattva, inexhaustible intent, good man, suppose there are immeasurable hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of living beings who are undergoing various trials and suffering. If they hear of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and single-minded, then at once he will perceive of their voices, and they will all gain deliverance from their trials. If someone holding past the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sound, should enter a great fire, the fire could not burn. This would come about because of this Bodhisattva's authority and supernatural power. If one were washed away by a great flood and call upon his, one would immediately find himself in a shallow. Suppose there were 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 living beings who seek for gold, silver, lapis lazuli, seashell, agate, coral, amber, pearls, and other treasures, set out on the great sea, and suppose a fierce wind should blow their ship off, and it drifted to the land of Rakshasa demons. If among those people there is even just one who calls it Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and all those people delivered from their troubles with the Rakshasas, if he is called perceiver of the world sounds. If a person who faces imminent threat of death should call the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and the swords and staffs wielded by his attack would instantly shatter into so many pieces, and he would be delivered. Though enough yakshas and rakshasas to fill all the 1,000,000,000 full world should try to come and torment a person, if they hear him calling the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and these evil demons will not even be able to look at him with their evil eyes, much less to him. Suppose there is a person who, whether guilty or not guilty, has had his body imprisoned in fetters and chains, cage and lock. If he calls the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world, then all his bonds will be severed and broken, and at once he will gain deliverance. Suppose in a place filled with hearted bandits of the 1,000,000,000 full world, there is a merchant leader who is guiding a band of merchants carrying valuable treasures over a steep and dangerous road, and thou shouts out these words, good men, do not be afraid. You must single-mindedly call on the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the worlds. This Bodhisattva can grant fearlessness to living beings. If you call his name, you will be delivered from these evil-hearted band. When the band of merchants hear this, they all together raise their voices, saying, Namo Bodhisattva, perceiver of the worlds. And because they call his name, they are at once able to gain deliverance, inexhaustible in the authority and supernatural power of the Bodhisattva and Mahasattva. Perceiver of the world sounds are as mighty as this. If there should be living beings beset by numerous lusts and crave, let them think with constant reverence of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the worlds, and then they can shed their desires. If they have great wrath and anger, let them think with constant reverence of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and they at their anger. If they have great ignorance and delusion, let them think with constant reverence of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and they can rid themselves of ignorance, inexhaustible intent. The Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, possesses great authority and supernatural, as I have described, and can confer many benefits. For this reason, living beings should constantly keep the thought of him. If a woman wishes to give birth to a male child, she should offer obeisance and alms to Bodhisattva, perceiver of the worlds, and then she will bear a son, blessed virtue and wisdom. And if she wishes to bear a daughter, she will bear one with all the marks of comeliness, one who in the planted the roots of virtue and is loved and respected by many persons. Inexhaustible intent, the Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, has power to do all this. If there are living beings who pay obeisance to Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, their good fortune will not be fleeting or vain. Therefore, living beings should all accept and uphold the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world. Suppose there is a person who accepts and upholds the names of as many Bodhisattvas as there are sands in 62 million Ganges, and for as long as his present body lasts, he offers alms in the form of food and drink, clothing, bedding, and medicines. What is your Would this good man or good woman gain many benefits, or would he not inexhaustible intent? Replied, they would be very many world-honored Suppose also that there is a person who accepts and upholds the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and even just once offers obeisance and alms. The good fortune gained by these two persons would be exactly and without difference for 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 kalpas. It would never be exhausted, or an inexhaustible intent if one accepts and upholds the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the worlds. Gain the benefit of merit and virtue that is as immeasurable and boundless as this Bodhisattva. Inexhaustible intent said to the Buddha, world honored one Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds. How does he come and go in the Saha world? How does he preach the law for the sake of living beings? How does the power of expedient means apply in this case? The Buddha said to Bodhisattva, exhaustible intent, good man, if there are living beings in someone in the Buddha, in order to be said Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, immediately manifests himself in a Buddha body and preaches the law for them. If they need someone in a Praiteka Buddha's body in order to be, immediately he manifests a Praiteka Buddha's body and preaches the law for them. If they need a voice hearer to be saved, immediately he becomes a voice, preaches the law for them. If they need King Brahma to be saved, immediately he becomes King Brahma and preaches the law for them. If they need the Lord Chakra to be, immediately he becomes the Lord Chakra and preaches the law for them. If they need heavenly being freedom to be saved, immediately he becomes a heavenly being freedom and preaches the law. If they need the heavenly being great freedom to be saved, immediately he becomes a heavenly being great freedom, preaches the law for them. If they need a great general of heaven to be saved, immediately he becomes a great general of heaven and preaches the law. If they need Vaishravana to be saved, immediately he becomes Vaishravana and preaches the law for them. If they need a petty king to be saved, immediately he becomes a petty king and preaches the law. If they need a rich man to be saved, immediately he becomes a rich man and preaches the law for them. If they need a householder to be saved, immediately he becomes a householder and preaches the law. Chief minister to be saved, immediately he becomes a chief minister and preaches the law for them. If they need a Brahmin to be saved, immediately he becomes a Brahmin and preaches the law for them. If they need a monk, a nun, a layman believer, or a laywoman believer to be saved, immediately he becomes a monk, a nun, a layman believer, or a laywoman believer and preaches the law for him. They need the wife of a rich man, of a householder, a chief minister, or a Brahmin to be saved, immediately he becomes those wives and preaches the law for them. If they need a young boy or a young girl to be saved, Immediately he becomes a young boy or a young girl and preaches Allah for them if they need a heavenly being, a dragon, a yaksha, a gandharva, an asura, a garud, a kinnada, a mahoraga, a human or a non-human being to be. He becomes all of these and preaches Allah for them if they need a Vaishya bearing God to be saved. Immediately he becomes a Vaishya bearing God and preaches Allah for them, inexhaustible and Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, has succeeded in acquiring benefits such as these and taking on variety of different forms, goes about among the land saving living beings. For this reason, you and the others should single-mindedly offer world sounds. This Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, perceiver of the world sounds, can bestow on those who are in fearful, pressing, or difficult circumstances. That is why in the Saha world everyone calls him bestower of fearless Bodhisattva, inexhaustible intent. Said to the Buddha, world honored one, now I must offer to Bodhisattva, perceiver of the took from his neck a necklace adorned with numerous precious gems worth 100 or 1,000 pieces of gold, and presented it to the Bodhisattva, saying, "Please, this necklace have precious gems as an act." Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, was unwilling to accept the gift, inexhaustible, and spoke once more to Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, saying, "Sir, out of compassion for us, please accept." Then the Buddha said to Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, out of compassion for this Bodhisattva, inexhaustible intent, and for the four kinds of believers, the heavenly kings, dragons, yakshas, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kinnaras, mahorak, human and non-human beings, you should accept this necklace. Thereupon Bodhisattva, the world sounds, having compassion for the four kinds of believers and the heavenly beings, dragons, human and non-human beings, and the others, accepted the necklace, and dividing it into two parts, presented one part to Shakyamuni Buddha, and presented the other to the Tower of the Buddha. Treasures, the Buddha said, inexhaustible intent, these are the kinds of freely exercised supernatural powers that Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, displays in his comings and goings in the Saha. At the time Bodhisattva, inexhaustible intent, poses question, and world-honored one, replete with wonderful features, I now ask you once again, for what reason the Buddha's son is named Bodhisattva, perceiver of the honored one, endowed with wonderful features, reply to inexhaustible intent in verse. Listen to the actions of the perceiver, how aptly he responds in various quarters. His vast oath is deep as the ocean, kalpas past, but it remains unfathomable. He has attended many thousands and millions of Buddhas, setting forth his great. I will describe him in outline for you. Listen to his name, observe his body, bear him in mind, not passing the time vainly, for he can wipe out the pains of existence. Should conceive a wish to harm you, should push you into a great pit of fire, think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and the pit of fire will change into. If you should be cast adrift on the vast ocean, menaced by dragons, fish, and various demons, think on the power of that perceiver of, and the billows and waves cannot drown you. Suppose you are on the peak of Mount Sumeru and someone pushes. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and you will hang in midair like the sun. Suppose you are pursued by evil, who wish to throw you down from a diamond mountain. Think on the power of the perceiver of, and they cannot harm a hair of you. Suppose you are surrounded by evil-hearted bandits, each brandishing a knife to wound. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and at once all will be swayed by compassion. Suppose you ain't with the king's law face punishment, about to forfeit your life. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and the executioner's sword will be broken too. Imprisoned in cage and lock, hands and feet bound by fetters and chains. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and they will fall off, leaving you free. Suppose with curses and various poisonous herbs someone should try to injure. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and the injury will rebound upon the originator. Suppose you encounter evil Rakshasa, various demons. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and then none of them will dare to harm you. If evil beasts should encircle, sharp fangs and claws inspiring terror, think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and they will scamper away in boundless reach. If lizards, snakes, vipers, scorpions threaten you with poison breath that sears like flame, think on the power of that perceiver. Your voice they will flee of themselves. If clouds should bring thunder and lightning strike, if hail pelts or drenching rain comes down, think on the power of that perceiver of, and at that moment they will vanish away. If evil be weariness or peril, immeasurable suffering pressing them down, the power of the perceiver of sounds, wonderful wisdom, can save them from the sufferings of the world. He is endowed with transcendental powers and widely practiced expedient means of wisdom throughout the lands in the 10 directions. There is no region where he does not manifest himself in many different kinds of evil circumstances. In the realms of hell, hungry spirits or beasts, the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and all these he bit by bit wipes out. He of the true gaze, the pure gaze, the gaze of great and encompassing wisdom, the gaze of pity, the gaze of compassion. Constantly we implore him, constantly look up and revere his pure life, free of blemishes, a son Dispelling all darkness, he can quell the wind and fire of misfortune, and everywhere bring light to the precepts from his compassion. In body shake us like thunder, the wonder of his pit is like a great cloud. He sends down the sweet dew, the Dharma rain, to quench the flames of earthly desires. When lawsuits bring you before the officials, when terrified in the midst of an art, think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and hatred in all its forms will be this wonderful sound, perceiver of the world sound, Brahma sound, the sea-tide sound. They surpass those sounds of the world, therefore you should constantly think on them from thought to thought, never entertaining down. Perceiver of the world sounds, pure sage to those in suffering and danger of death. He can offer benefits, he views living beings with compassionate eyes. The sea of his accumulated blessings is immeasurable, therefore you should bow your head to him. At the time the Bodhisattva earth holder immediately rose from his advance and said to the Buddha, world honored one, if there are living beings who hear this chapter on Bodhisattva, perceiver of the worlds, on the freedom of his actions, his manifestation of a gateway and his transcendental powers, it should be known that benefits these persons gain are not few. When the Buddha preached this chapter, Soul Gateway, a multitude of 84,000 persons in the assembly all conceived determination to attain the unparalleled state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme. Namo Saptanam Samyak Sambuddha Kotinam Tadyata Om Chade Chode Chonde Swaha. Namo Saptanam Samyak Sambuddha Kotinam Om Chade Chode Chonde Swaha. Namo Saptanam Samyak Sambuddha Kotinam Tadyata Om Chade Chode Chonde Swaha.
Of the Paramita, the
Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the discourse of Prajnaparamita, shed light on the five skandhas and found them equally empty. After this penetration, he overcame ill-beingness, and Shariputra form its emptiness. His form is not other than this is not other than form. The same is true with feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increasing nor decreased. Therefore in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, no perception nor mental formation, nor consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of elements, no interdependent origins, and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no understanding, no attainment, because there is no attainment. The Bodhisattva obstacles for their minds. Having no obstacles, they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambuddhi. Therefore one should know that perfect is the highest mantra, the unequaled mantra, the destroyer of ill-being, the incorruptible truth. The mantra of Prajna Paramit should therefore be proclaimed. Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Swaha. Gate 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 para samgate bodhi swaha. Gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha. Namo Amitabhaya tathagata yata yata amrito bhavi amrita siddham Vita Vikranti Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kirta Kare Swaha. Namo Amitabhaya Tathagata Yataryat Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikranti Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kirta Kare Swaha. Mitabhaya tathagata yataryata amrito bhavi amrita siddham bhavi amrita vikranti amrita vikranta gamini gagana kirta kare swaha.
Invoking Bodhisattva Bodhisattva, we
invoke your name, Avalokiteshvara. We aspire to learn your way of listening in order to help relieve the suffering in the world. You know how to listen in order to practice listening with all our attention and open-heartedness. We will sit and listen without any prejudice. We will sit and listen without judging or react. We will sit and listen in order to understand. We will sit and listen so attentive that we will be able to hear what the other person is saying and also what is being left unsaid. We know that just by listening deeply, we already alleviate a great deal of pain and suffer in the other person. Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Namo Avalokiteshvara. Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. 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 Namo Avalokiteshvara Sattva Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva O Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva.
The three refuges. I take refuge
in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the community that lives in harmony and awareness.
Dwelling in the refuge
of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction.
Taking
refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awake nature, realizing the mind of love, taking refuge in the Dharma. In myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation, taking refuge in the Sangha. In myself I aspire to help all people build for full community, to embrace all beings and support their transformation.
Sharing the merit,
reciting the sutras, practicing the way of awareness, gives rise to benefits without limit. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along